Hey everyone, we will still be on the Stampede Podcast Network, but this is an announcement to say that we will have a standalone YouTube channel, UnCoupling, so head over to that channel for all past and future episodes, and don't forget to subscribe.
He had such a temper and would get so mad, and then I would get so upset, and then it was just this constant thing. And I remember one of the days, he asked me to trim his beard or whatever, and I was like, oh, how fun! And I guess I went too far on one of his sideburns, and he just hit the wall and started smashing things, and I ran into the other room and I hid away, and I was hiding. And in the midst of hiding, I was like, what am I doing? Why am I? I'm not this
person. How is this my life?
I'm not this person who should be hiding right now.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of UnCoupling. Today we have Samantha Hanratty. I always forget last names.
You did so good though.
Hanratty, yes.
Yeah.
And she's been on a little show you guys might know, YELLOWJACKETS. We've got Pushing Days. You have Sweet Life of Zack and Cody, Vampire Diaries. So we are happy to have her on the program.
Thank you.
Everyone, please like and subscribe. Smash the like button.
Smash it.
I'm told I have to say all these things because
this is her manager.
This matters. My manager's behind camera, which might make an appearance this episode. He has a lot of opinions in general, so we love his opinions and would love a male perspective in this particularly female room today. So, thank you for coming.
Thank you.
We want to start off with what's one thing you've done for yourself this week? Because as an uncoupling podcast, we think that breakups, the biggest part about walking away from someone is it's about yourself ultimately. And destigmatizing breakups as a bad thing. They can be a good thing. There's no secrecy that needs to be surrounded around breakups.
Yeah.
As they traditionally are.
Yeah.
At least on social media. So what's one thing you did for yourself this week?
I'm I do a lot of stuff for myself. Okay. I've been really taking care of myself. This week, I spent a lot of time with my mom, which was nice.
Oh, that's
I got
so
to see
fun.
my mom.
Your mom lives in town?
No, she's a couple hours away.
Okay.
So we had
Not too bad.
Yeah, we had a family friend pass, so we went to a celebration of life on Saturday, and then I just wanted to spend the weekend with her and my in-laws as well, and I spent time with them, and so I'm married, woo woo woo, and he's really good, yay, we got a good one. Yeah,
this is not about that uncoupling.
Yes. But yeah, just spending time with family has been really important, especially in a time of grieving. And I went into the sauna and I did some teeth whitening. I really just
all forms of
try
self-care
to be really
this
cute.
Week. Yeah. This week. Oh, that's so nice.
Yeah.
My mom lives halfway across the country, so I'm always like, you guys have your moms here. I love that.
I'll always make the drive. I'm it's a 3-hour drive, and I'm easy. That's 3 episodes of 48 hours.
Right?
I got this.
I divide things in podcast time.
Yes,
totally.
Same here. Yeah,
totally.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. This is a weird one because my dog's 13 and a half, and she had a lot of vet problems in the last 3-4, one of those situations.
Oh, I'm sorry.
But it's okay. 13 and a half, she's getting up there. But I have this thing where we have 15 minutes of hugs in the morning, and I will set my alarm. Yeah, Jason doesn't even know this behind camera.
It's adorable.
So
I'm already really emotional, so I'm probably going to cry a couple times. But
she almost came today, but it was a long day, so she didn't come today. But she is my love of my life, my little Fievel. And so, Fievel goes west. And so we are... I've been pretty dedicated to hug time in the mornings for several years now, but now it's it will happen every day, and I will set the alarm to do so, given current news especially. So it's they're here today, you get to enjoy them. So that's weirdly been my self-love time because I'm renovating my house. And my boyfriend's house, to be exact. And so there's a difference. Yeah. And I'm exhausted.
Yeah.
So hug time with little Fievel is my self-care right now.
Yeah.
It's the best. And
what
it should
kind of dog?
She's a terrier Dachshund poodle. Oh. So she looks like Falcor from Neverending Story. She's 36 inches from tip to tip, but 2 inches off the ground.
Stop.
With like elephant ears.
Oh my God, stop.
So she's awesome. She's adorable.
Oh my God.
She's the best. This is a dog-friendly room.
I love so much.
Yeah.
I have two
What's
babies
it?
at home. Yeah.
The
And I
two
have a
4-leggeders.
10-year-old mini Aussie who you would still think
Oh,
she's
the
a
mini
puppy.
Aussie.
I know.
Does
And
she
she's
get the like
ridiculous.
sleep smell in her ears in the morning?
A sleep smell in her
Do you know what I'm
ears?
talking about? There's
No,
like a doggy sleep smell that like it's like puppy smell, but only when adult dogs wake up in the morning do they get the puppy smell, and it's in their ears.
No, she smells awful. She smells like shit all the time. But I love her. And I wake up with lots of kisses all over my face.
Oh, that's so
And then usually I'll be like,
nice.
okay, let's lay down, and she'll just plop her head right on my chest.
She's
and I'm
sweet.
like, oh.
See, Feifel's a
Okay.
bitch. She's an ass. Oh, she's a see you next Tuesday. But I love that. It's a one-way street. She does not love me. I love her. And I will
So she's a
continue-
cat.
She's a literal cat.
Yeah, so she's a cat.
Oh, she's a total cat.
Yeah.
And I love cats too, but I'm a dog person, and it doesn't matter. I told her I would be her mother, and I've had her for over 12 years, and
love
the
that.
dogs are the best.
Yeah,
They're the best.
agreed.
I don't know when I'll get another dog. If that's a long time, but I want one that like kisses me in the morning.
Oh yeah, I mean
The
my
little
two
mini
dogs.
Aussies.
It's like they're
Oh.
just it's so much. Like my face is just like dripping.
Oh.
Ew, that's so gross, but it's so true.
It's so
like
fun,
it's really
though.
between the two, Olive and Coda.
I know we have dirtier beds, but there are so many studies that show like we are happier people. Like the dopamine is better
Yes.
regulated
Yes.
because of the dog kisses in the morning.
There was an article that said for women in particular, they sleep better with a dog in bed with them.
Really?
Yeah, it's
That
like,
makes sense.
So whenever it's like a safety,
Yeah.
like like an alert will go off right
Oh,
away.
that's so interesting.
But
Oh,
it was
that's
also,
true, too.
It was
It's like-
also like a dopamine thing too that like it calms you when you're in bed.
Yeah, I'll have like I'll have especially Olive because we just say she just plops. She's like a year old, but like when she's tired, she's hyper, and then she just plops. And so but she has to be plopped onto somebody. And she has to at all times have her head resting on somebody. And so at night she'll come and sometimes she'll lay on her back and plop next to
Little
me like
Olive.
like a human. But I sometimes will get my breath to match her breath because like if I'm feeling really anxious, I'm like. I can feel her stomach, and then I'm like, okay,
It's
I'll
like
just
tummy
breathe
time.
like her, and then it like helps me just calm down a little bit. Yeah,
That's actually a good idea.
Yeah.
Good breathing technique.
Dogs, man. That's lots
Dogs
of
are
lots of
forever.
self-love this week.
yeah.
Now to get into breakups. Yeah. We've got some fun ones, I feel like, because I can relate on the breakup on a road trip. Because I too have been broken up with on a road trip. Where were you going?
I was going to Arizona.
So going to Arizona.
Yeah. He
And-
was like, I'm going to Arizona for a trip thing for work, and I was like, okay, well I have family there, so if you need company, and he was like, I'd love that. And
How
then,
long had you all been dating?
It was very, very brief. We weren't even like in a relationship. Like
Okay.
it was like we were like exclusively seeing each other, but we'd only been seeing each other for like a month.
So were you going to meet his family?
No.
Oh,
And he
these
wasn't
are
going to meet
friends.
mine.
These are
It was
friends.
just like
These
it
are
was just I was going to stay
Arizona.
with family, and he was going to a hotel.
Oh,
It was
okay,
like we're just
okay.
going to travel there together.
Got it.
And he got in the car, and he said something about how a bunch of him and his friends were like all hanging out, and they're acting like a bunch of, and then said the F word about like towards like queer people, like gay people.
Okay.
And I looked at him and I was like, oh, let's not say that word. And he was like, well, what? We were acting like a bunch of, and he said it again. And I was just like, and he was like, oh, you really have a problem with that, don't you? And I was like, I mean, I just don't like saying words that people have killed themselves over. And he like took that like,
Fair.
whoa, and then I don't know. And then I just like was like talking about how I was a feminist and all this stuff. And he like basically was just like, I just don't think this is going to work out. And I was like, fair. Yeah, it doesn't seem like it. Because right now we're just so like.
And you just had hours to sit there the
hours.
rest of the trip.
So I don't know if I was just like in my villain era or what, but I decided, you know what? If you're going to make me feel as comfortable as I do right now, I'm going to make you feel uncomfortable. So I FaceTimed my mom, my friends. I faced a bunch of people and was like, hey, yeah, like so-and-so. I'm like, he's right here. Yeah, he just ended it with me. And I'm like, I guess it's kind of mutual. But yeah, so like now we're on our way to Arizona. I've got to book a flight. And he just sat there and listened to me call. I think I called like 10 people while we were in the car and just kept saying the same story of like, yeah, say hi. And he's like, hi. And my mom's like, you're so weird for doing this. And I was like,
Was there even a hug goodbye at the end, or was it like peace, peace?
No, like he was like, you should get off the dating apps if you think you're gonna like try to find like a real relationship. So in spite of him, I met my husband on Bumble. So
Who doesn't use the F word?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Oh, the apps can be a weird place.
Oh, I know. Yeah.
I spent 3 weeks on the apps and met my boyfriend there.
Okay. Yeah.
But I did 18 dates in 20 days. My barometer was very wide.
Wow.
Very wide. Very wide.
Wow.
And no, it's a weird place.
Yeah.
It's a weird place.
Yeah.
And I can only imagine how odd it gets, like with a large amount of, because it was not, I got lucky in the 3 weeks. Like it had nothing to do with me. It was just like, was my path.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I can only imagine like, the apps games, man.
Yeah, but I've been really lucky on apps too.
I was like, you met your husband on an app.
I did, yeah.
But you
Bumble.
met the other dude on an app as well.
Yes, Bumble as well. Bumble has been my go-to app, and so like I met one of my ex-boyfriends who's like my favorite ex. Is that a thing? But
that's totally a thing.
Totally
Yeah.
like my favorite
Yeah.
ex. He's awesome. I actually told him I was probably going to talk about him, and like I messaged him. I was like, "Is that okay?" He was like, as long as it's nice. I was like, that's all I gotta say is nice things. So hey, Speedy. And yeah, so he we met on a dating app. So I knew you could meet somebody great.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I
think it's a really good learning experience that you were able to FaceTime all of your people, because I would be like, I am like a true Libra that I cannot face confrontation if it just hit me in the face. I'd be like just taking the hits. I would just be like melting. So the fact you're like, hey, he's here. Yeah. Like it makes it a really healthy thing to just face head on. And it's not a villainous thing at all.
It was just, it was, I think I just wasn't like okay though. So like I think that my go-to was just kind of like, you know what? I'm hurt.
So you were upset about it?
Yeah, I think I was just like, I
just
wish
didn't
that
see it
you could
coming.
have like figured that out sooner.
Right.
Also like, I felt like I was pretty honest with like the kind of person that I am, that like that kind of language or that kind of, whatever.
Would have been assumed.
Yeah, I thought, but I guess I was wrong.
Was he
then,
from Arizona?
No. He was just going to work
when
there.
When people go home, like their home version of them.
Yeah,
comes
it's
out.
a different.
That's true.
So sometimes
Yeah.
your friends just say the F word, and you're like, that's normal. But I'm going, you were in your villain era. I feel like the confidence era. You're like, no, fuck you. I'm right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like that's not
Stand
okay.
your ground.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I think that like that's the hardest thing is like I think in my head it was like telling somebody that that's not okay and why it's not okay. You would just assume that maybe they'd like listen and be like, oh, I didn't think of it that way or whatever. But instead it was like just continuously.
But it makes it the easiest breakup in a way. It wasn't, that could have been 6 more months of like, oh, you're so right. And then there are the oscillating starts of like the ping pong.
Yeah. No. It was a quick, but I've been through enough really bad relationships to kind of once it's like something
when you feel it's a no, you're like,
really
I'm a
big
no.
red flag. I'm like, oh God, it's blinding. I can't. I don't want to.
If I'm single again, I'm now in that space where I'm like, oh, this is not going to work. Yep, no,
Yeah, no.
And I don't believe you for 5 seconds if you're going to say it's different, and that's okay.
Because people show you who they are, and you got to
believe
believe them. Yeah,
Thank you, Maya Angelou.
yeah, literally,
Yes.
literally.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, we've talked about like, I don't know how old you are, but like in your 30s, you don't change.
Yeah.
So once you feel that like red light or red flag from someone, you're going, that's who they are.
Yeah. Yeah.
Bail. If that's not for you,
Well, he
get
made
out,
it very
right?
lovely. He put out the red carpet for you.
Yeah, he really did.
He's like,
Yeah.
no, I mean it. I'm going to say it again.
And he did, and I was like, well, okay.
You're like, you are just okay.
Honestly, if I
That's
could have
easy.
tucked and rolled, I probably would have. Like I probably
You're like, this
would
is
have just been
happening.
like, bye, ran into a cactus.
He's in
I
his
don't know.
villain
Yeah.
personality, I
Yeah,
guess.
yeah.
Like,
Villain
they're just
life.
I'll say villain life.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's like, no, I mean it.
Yeah. And I was like,
wild.
okay, well, let me book a flight. So then I booked a flight the next morning. I came back to LA.
And at least you were seeing family. Like you were in your safe spot where you're not like, oh, I got to get a hotel and I
It was
feel
just
so
embarrassing.
stranded.
I was like, like got out of the car and was like, see ya. And then like, I was
bad.
like, hey, Aunt Trisha, hey, Uncle Robert. I was like, I'm gonna
it's
go
good.
to bed. My cousin was upstairs and I came into his room and he was like, let's watch Billy on the Street. And I was like, okay. And it's just all night we just watched Billy on the Street.
That's like a perfect go-to mind-numbing
I'd
show.
never watched it before too. And so I was just
What?
like, wow, this is amazing. I was very happy.
No.
Yeah,
It's
Billy on the
Billy
Street.
Eichner in
I know.
New York.
Yeah. I know Billy Eichner though.
You would love-
He's so funny.
Very uncomfortable, but like funny.
He's got like 10s across the board with this like unpose. I'm obsessed with this line. 10s across the board. So anyway, I'm glad you had a soft landing though.
Yeah.
It's always good to be like, I was broken up with a Burning Man. It doesn't get worse.
No.
Yes.
No.
Yes. Yes.
The dehydration.
There's a lot of things going
There's
on there.
a lot of things going on.
Yeah. Thankfully, I was in my right mind, but I can't say that for everybody else.
Yeah.
So no, it's nice to have a soft landing, but I had friends there. So the soft landing of friends and family.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's everything.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
So what was your like craziest breakup?
Oh my gosh. I mean, that one was like, I had another one that was like similar in the sense that was 1 month that we had been seeing each other, and he was just like really just not a good person. I can't say like, oh, he just wasn't nice to me. Like he just in general like, was not a good person, and I don't know if it was one of those like I just felt like I really didn't deserve a lot, so I was like, here's a piece of trash, and I guess that's where I'm at, you know, and he was just, so many bad things. He did so many bad things.
But they should, it sounds like you've got like a 30-day or less, it's like a return policy.
Yeah.
It's like 30 days.
Because we'll go into it, but like my first relationship was 3 years of really bad. So like after that, you know, you kind of it gets shorter and shorter where you're like, I can't, you know? And so this guy, we were driving in Malibu, and I tried to like hold his hand, and he kind of swiped me off. And I was like, it's not a big deal. Of course it was. But I was like, it's not a big deal, but like, you know, you'd never want to like show me any affection. And he was like, honestly, I could just not be less interested.
Why is he there?
I literally was like, okay. And after that, like, I mean, so many things had happened. Like I had a friend who passed away, and literally like in the midst of trying to like heal from all of that, he was like, why are you acting so depressed? And I was like, well, I've just been going through it. And he cuts me off and he goes, who cares? Like, that is how he talked to me. And so this was just the final straw. And we're, like, in the canyon, and we're about to get towards, like, a McDonald's. And I was like, drop me off. And he was like, no, I'm taking you home. And I was like, no. I was like, truly, if you do not open this door, like, if you do not pull over, I'm going to open the door. I'm going to get out. I'm going to get hurt. But you know what? You're going to be liable. So, like.
They want to take you home. Oh,
yes.
yeah. For their sake of, I'm going to be a good person in the scenario. And you're like, no, you were never a good person.
You're not a good person.
So I'm getting off right now.
So he did. He dropped me off at McDonald's. My mom drove an hour to come pick
Big
me
Macs.
up. And
like, are we, like, it's sad when like a multi-billion-dollar corporation is your form of support.
I know.
Over the guy that you do not want to take you home.
I didn't eat there, but I did cry. I did cry on the lawn.
But like crying anywhere near a McDonald's, you don't need to eat the food. It paints the picture.
And that is my like. That was actually 5 years ago, 5.5 years ago that happened, and I know because that was the last day that I drank.
Wow.
So that was.
But it sounds like you're a quick learner. To be 5.5 years and you're married now, and obviously a healthy relationship, you've made a lot of like self changes. Yeah. That's a huge difference in self confidence and self worth.
Yeah.
And so, what do you think like has made you such a? I would say a fast learner, like a really like you're like a sponge. Like you'll immediately react. It sounds like
it's so funny because I don't see that.
You probably don't feel that way.
No,
but look at the time. That's true, though.
Yeah, I think that therapy, Lexapro,
there we go,
has helped a lot.
We haven't talked about medication on this podcast a lot.
Yeah. Lexapro has been a big help with just my anxiety in general, self-confidence and self-love. I've always known I was meant to meet somebody amazing, and I've always known that like. I'm going to be a mom. I'm going to be a wife. Like I had this like goal, and I just didn't really know how to get there. And I've been like gaslit into thinking so many times of like, well, this is your story and like this is your person. So this is like you just have to tough it out. You have to do this. You have to do that. And I finally kind of got to a point of like, no, I don't. Like then that's just clearly not my person. If I'm having to like fight so hard
it
all the
shouldn't be
time.
That hard.
Yeah, no. And if like I feel like I'm constantly getting like emotionally beat up, like that's not the dad I want for my kids. And I think that was the biggest thing is like thinking about my future kids because of how badly I want to be a mom. That's like always been my like really like that's what I want to be the example of their father. That's what I want to teach my daughters, that it's okay to be treated like this by a man, and that's what I want to teach like my sons, that it's okay to be that man.
Right.
No. And vice versa, obviously. Like, you know,
right.
my kids can be with whoever, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I just, I think I just.
Realizing you wanted the same treatment as you would want for your children.
Yeah. And I think in therapy, starting to see my past self as another person other than myself. And I have so much empathy and love for her. And I just don't want to continue the cycle anymore, you know? So, yeah.
That's a big one. And getting sober and the acceptance of medication and knowing that what can work for you in your life is huge breakup, like gifts in a sense. Yeah. The McDonald's taught you so much.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I'm like, you know, I wish I could say, and I never dated a bad guy again. No, I mean, I definitely did. But it just, it took, and honestly, COVID took, like, stripped a lot from us, you know?
Did you meet your husband during COVID?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He was a Bumble COVID
He was a Bumble COVID. Like, we social distance hiked, you know? Wow. And it was like, and then we shared water, and I was like, oh, we share germs. You're stuck with me. Guess who's marrying you?
We gotta hang out.
And that's what we are.
I love the COVID love stories. Like, there's obviously such a dark time, but like the COVID love stories are such a unique present out of that time. Yeah,
because you're really thrown into the shit together, and we dealt with it all. We dealt with grieving of, like, you know, our lives that we had beforehand and not knowing what was going to be coming, and also like we had very quickly we had a lot of death in the family, and so like being there for one another during that time, and it was just such a time of not knowing what was going to happen and knowing that we wanted to figure that out together was very
there's
special.
something there. I worked with a director who produced a movie with his now wife, and they like got engaged right before he started filming, and they were married by the time they were editing, and it's like they're such a strong couple, and I was like, there's got to be a through line with COVID where like you said, like the common theme of grieving together. Yeah. And then I think it's almost like a Love is Blind, a dash of Love is Blind in there. That you have to like get to know each other's personalities more than the physical. Yeah. Or there's just that separation of we will find a way to get to know each other.
Yeah. And you get to know each other's families very fast. And, you know, there's just a lot because we were both living with our parents at the time.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Because I left LA. I have a compromised immune system. So I was like, got to get out of here. Don't want to die. And and so I mean,
and he met my parents.
No, we both were up north. Wow. Yeah, and so his parents, his mom and his stepdad live like a 2-minute drive from my parents. So and I'm so close with them.
So fun that you get to when you go home for the holidays, it's the same place.
Yeah. That's so lucky. So lucky. Like when we do have kids, like we're so lucky that like the grandparents are all going to be like so close to each other. Yeah. And then his dad also lives like in California as well. So like all of us are in California. All my sisters.
That's
like,
so
we're
lovely.
Very lucky. Yeah.
I love that. Now what would you say is like the biggest learning breakup you went through?
Oh my gosh. I mean, obviously, I feel like I learned from each one so much.
Was there when you felt like a different person coming out of it?
I think you need to dive into the 3-year.
3-year, yeah. I feel like it's time to
secret time.
I feel like that's where but I think, you know, if that was your first biggest relationship, I feel like it seems like you really learned a lesson there. Yeah. So I don't know. I would say like your breakup where you felt the biggest difference between like there's like a true before and after.
I mean, honestly, it might have been my ex before my husband in this sense. Like, I really just don't like – there's a lot of parts of my life that I look back and I'm like, I just don't really like who I was at this time of my life or that time of my life. I didn't really like who I was the whole time I was with that person, and I think that he really brought out the worst in me. And and it was long distance, and it was just a really exhausting relationship and a really like – it was very emotionally abusive and taxing, and there were times that like I genuinely was like afraid of him, and he never laid hands on
distance.
me. Yeah. But when we were in person, it was so intense all the time, and it was just like I wanted it to be perfect and I wanted it to look nice, and on social media I posted so much with him to be like, it's so good, everything's so good, look how good we are. And then like
that was a self-soothing thing for you.
Yes, wow, because I wanted so bad to be like I finally got it right, because I felt like I had failed in a way of I had such a bad relationship as my first relationship, and then I had a good one. Speedy, hey, and then to go back to another long relationship with somebody that it was so not good felt like a failure in a lot of ways, and I wanted to be like, no, I'm good. I've learned and I am good, and I think finally leaving that and just the way that I left it too, of just being like, you know what, I'm just tired of being treated this way. I'm really tired of it.
You got to get real. So, well, I fall into that category. You got to get really tired.
And that's the thing. I was exhausted. And the day that I think my whole body and everything in me knew it was done, and I basically, like, we were kind of going on like a break or whatever for a couple days and then gonna talk. And I just knew it. I could feel it. And that was the day that I booked YELLOWJACKETS.
No way.
Yeah. And I was just like already a wreck, like emotionally. And then I got on the phone with my team and they told me that. And I literally just felt like God went, here's the door. It's
We're
wide
pluck
open.
You out here.
Yes, it's
We're gonna
wide open.
You.
Run, like, run for that door. And
that's it's always so serendipitous. Like, you can't not look at, is there something meant to be out there?
Yeah, yeah.
And it's like, we're going to give you the biggest gift of distraction, of self-worth, of you're gonna meet a bunch of new people, probably go to a new location, like all the things.
Yeah. And I, there were times in that relationship that, like I said, like I was scared of him in the sense that, like, he had such a temper and would get so mad, and then I would get so upset, and then it was just this constant like thing. And I remember like one of the days, he asked me to like trim his beard or whatever, and I was like, oh, how fun! And I guess I went too far on one of his sideburns, and he just like hit the wall and started smashing things, and I like ran into the other room and I like hid away, and I was hiding, and like in the midst of hiding, I was like, what am I doing? Like, why am I? I'm not this
person. How is this my life?
I'm not this person who should be hiding right now. And I remember like I was trying to book a plane ticket to come back to America because I couldn't take it. And he like unplugged the the computer and stuff like that. And then I was just like, I was like so trapped. But then I'd come home and I'd look through all the photos and videos and be like, oh, but we did have this nice time, and then we did have and
it's so hard to like bring your head into reality.
Yeah. My mom and dad literally sat us both down and were like, this is not good.
No.
And so they were very like, this is not good for you.
Yeah.
And so I grew a lot from that. Like after that one was like,
that's when you got tired.
So
and you did not recognize your own life.
Yeah, no. And so that's when like that ended in October, and then I met Christian in April.
How were the 6 months in between? Like, what was the reprieve like?
Honestly, I felt like happy in a lot of ways. Like I felt like I was
peaceful and free.
Yes. Well, and I got this new job, and I got this.
That's right.
So I'm like seeing these opportunities that could be coming, and I gained this friendship with my best friend Steven, and him and I started like working out all the time together and doing things like out of the house and going to dog parks and just doing things that felt good and happy. And I felt like I just started seeing myself again, and and it was really fast. Like my first big breakup, it took me so long to get over, whereas this was like, I feel like I was tired for so long that the grief period wasn't very long. I was able to just go like, who was that? What was that? I felt like I was like in a coma or something.
Yeah,
like that was not
experience.
Like I have been asleep for so long, and I'm just now waking up again and remembering that I'm fun and I'm nice. And that's the biggest thing I told him when we broke up was like, I'm a pretty spiritual person, and I told him, I was like, I am not going to let you tell me lies about who I am anymore. And then I'm not even like that religious, but I was like, I am a woman of God, and I am not going to let you tell me that I am anything other than good.
Yeah.
And I'm a good person. And you've really like wrecked that, and you tried to tell me I'm not, and I'm not going to listen to your lies. And that was,
It's hard to have those wake up moments. But, the great thing is one thing I've learned in this podcast is when people, the particular person you're breaking up with will say something that no one else has called you before in your life. And then you call your friends or you call exes that you're still like really friendly with. Yeah. And it's like, what? I would never use those adjectives for you.
Yeah.
And it's like, there's an outlier. There's a common thread of all the people that know you and the relationship you have to yourself. Yeah. And when that doesn't align with what that one person said, it's that gaslighting moment where you can call the gaslighting as it is.
Yeah.
And sometimes you need like work out to in, like go to every other source where it's like, oh wait, I guess I'm not those things. Yeah. Maybe that's a mirror to themselves.
Yeah. Yeah.
Why they're calling me these things. But it can get so tricky when you don't see other friends, or you're saying, you're not seeing the outside world mentally.
Yeah.
Where you think
and whenever I'd be over where he lives, I was completely isolated. Like I was with his friends, his family, the people in his life, and I had nobody. I didn't have, I had nothing. And it was a very confusing time, you know? And so, but I think that I've had just so much growth from going from that to being with Christian, who is like Mr. Like the first thing that we bonded over was therapy. And like, I was like, oh my God, this person actually cares about wanting to be a better version of himself. I've never been with that before. Like, you know, like not really. Like not somebody who's can humble themselves and know enough to go, I'm not perfect and, you know, and I have things to work on and I want to work on those. And yeah, I was like.
An awakening moment.
Yeah, literally.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I always joke around because I'm like, I always prayed for a Christian. And I got a man who was agnostic named Christian.
Close enough.
Yeah, exactly.
I've always prayed for a Christian, but I got an agnostic Christian.
Yeah,
who was close enough.
Exactly. You know what? He is literally my perfect person.
Oh, it is weird how the roads, like, I love talking to people who are married and obviously happily married, and that, that breakup before is always so pivotal, I feel like. Yeah. More often than not, it tends to be.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Is there a breakup that you wish we never went through, or is there an experience in relationships that you just couldn't believe happened to you, if that makes sense, or something you would never usually, if like baby Samantha, you would go, oh, I would never picture, baby Samantha would never picture myself in that relationship.
Yeah. Ugh. I'm telling you, I am going to get like emotional at certain points.
It's okay.
We got tissues.
We have tissues.
Yeah. Just because I've never like talked about it like on something like this. So like if it was just like I was talking to somebody normally about it, I'm able to like kind of detach a little bit.
Right.
I've done like EMDR,
which I hear is really
amazing.
It's a type of, for anyone out there, like it's a type of therapy, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But it's like cognitive on steroids?
Eye movement, disassociation, something. It's basically to help you don't feel as attached to what happened to you.
Oh, that's interesting.
And you're able to almost like detach that isn't necessarily you.
EMDR.
Yeah, but I still get emotional because I'm like, I no longer really see it as a link to myself, but I get emotional for the girl that happened to.
Right.
So I was very in love with somebody, and when we broke up, we were like hooking up on and off, and which, you know, people
never
do all
makes
the time.
it easy.
It's so hard. And one of the days that happened, I was assaulted, and it was
by him.
Mm-hmm, yeah, and it was really hard for me to like wrap my mind around the fact that it was assault, because it was like, okay, well, I said no, and he pushed me back, and he did it anyway, and I cried, and then he laughed at me. But I loved him, and he said he loved me, and it's like really.
Am
hard
I misunderstanding this, or like the amount of games you play with yourself, out of love?
And I think
quote,
for
unquote.
so long it was like this was a really bad thing that he did, but it wasn't.
He had never done it before, though.
No.
So it was out of the blue.
Yeah,
even in post breakup,
he just had something he wanted to do, and the relationship itself was really, really emotionally abusive, and so he. It was something, like I said, I never viewed as assault until, like, really being with my husband now. There were certain things that happened that just, I started just having these flashbacks, and I was like, okay, if that happened to one of my friends, I would be telling her, like that is assault. That was not okay. What happened to you? But because it happened to me, I was like, oh, like, you know, it was a bad thing. It was a bad thing, and I'm sure he regrets it.
When you always want to idealize and see the best in people, especially ones that you've taken so much time with and you've trusted.
Right. And and we were together for 3 years, and he was like my like person that I really thought forever with, you know, and
those are the ones you make the excuses for the most.
To this day, I'm still like, you know, I'm like, okay, well, you know, clearly he had things with his childhood. He had things, you know, there has to be a whole reason of why this or that happened. And I do believe that sometimes we're, you know, a victim to circumstances that have happened to us, but there has to come a time where you go, I'm going to stop this cycle or that cycle, and I'm not going to, you know, be, you know, I remember one time he like told me, he was like, I'm an asshole. It's who I am. And I realized he kind of used that as an excuse to be mean. and be able to be like, it's just who I am. And it's like, okay, but if you're just excusing yourself by giving yourself a title,
right,
that doesn't make it better, you know? And
do you feel like you didn't realize at the time it was assault because you were, like backtracking it in your own mind. Do you feel like, did it ever happen again? Or was that the final straw? And then ironically you realized it was, you know what I mean?
No, yeah, we definitely stopped like hooking up for a while. And I think there was a part of me that always just wanted to be accepted by him for so long.
You love these people and you're like, if this is my person, by God, darn it, I'm going to make it work.
Right. And even like as a friend, I wanted to be in his life because if somehow I could get him to like me, like maybe I could
he
like
would
myself.
Change. He would.
Yeah.
And if he liked you, then you said like you
and
like,
this happened so many years ago. I mean, I was like 19 at the time, 18, 19 when it happened, and all the way up till literally I tried to be friends with him in 2020. Like we ran into each other, and I thought, I growing up religious, there was a lot of like this push on like forgiveness, and you have to forgive like Jesus did. Well, guess what? I'm not Jesus. And this whole like you have to see people as a clean slate was really like in my mind of like, okay, well, if I forgive this person, that means like they're like absolved of all the things that they've done to me in the past. And then unfortunately there were just things that would happen that I was like, you really haven't changed that much. And
using your own judgment.
Yeah, I finally was like, I don't even want to be friends with you. Like I don't really want to have anything to do with this person anymore. And it's hard because I don't want this person to be canceled. I don't want this person to have anything.
Yeah, you don't wish ill will to them.
No, I don't. I do think, because that's why I haven't talked about this stuff before, but I think that it's important.
It's important to talk about because people, their blurred lines are really hard, like no's and yeses and when to walk away, because the love doesn't go away, you know? And that's why I think we still hold emotion for people, is like it's okay to still love someone, but to keep them at arm's length. And that they're not, they're just not in your lane. They're not in your world.
Yeah.
But you can always hold love like at arm's distance, and I think that's important.
Yeah.
But it's really hard to put that together at 19.
Yeah. I mean, I'm like,
it's tough.
No, it was like, it was
so
a lot,
tough.
and I'm still, like I said, it's like a scar that's on me. It's not like an open wound. I don't think about it all the time. But every now and then I'll be like, oh yeah, that's like a part of me. That's something that happened that like, comes up and it makes me really sick. And it like, and it sucks that it affects my marriage, and it sucks that it doesn't affect it on a day-to-day basis, but there's just certain things that happen. Like you were talking about names earlier and like somebody calling you something, and like there are certain things that are just so. I was recently like diagnosed with PTSD over this stuff, and so like that's something I never would have thought of for myself, of like, oh, that this is going to linger on with me for a long time,
But that's the evidence of that term.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. That's what that is.
Yeah, and
we don't think of it that way because we're like, that has to do with war.
Literally, I'm like, or I've always played the game of other people have had it so much worse than me, so why am I complaining?
And you can't compare.
Which is I know. Ridiculous.
It is
like,
very,
the things I tell my friends, I just wish I could listen to half of that, and be like, that's so stupid to even think that way, because what happened to you matters too,
right?
No matter how big or small, and so.
I think it's important to talk about this because people are in that exact place when you were 19, they're there right now.
Yeah.
And it can feel like you said, like we're explaining, it feels like a bottomless pit of just going crazy in your own head of, was that assault? Was that not assault? I didn't realize that was assault, but I love this person. But I have a weird feeling, but I should be a clean slate. Like the back and forth is a really tricky place to be.
Yeah.
So I love social media, and I love that podcasts have blown up because we didn't have these resources.
Yeah.
I'm older than you, but at 19, it was like social media was not as big back then.
Well, and I also in my like general like little circle and everything, like I didn't even really talk about sex. I didn't really talk about certain things. Like I also always just tried very hard to protect this person. Mm-hmm. Oh my God, like so much. And so like it took me a long time to even like really talk about it, you know, and like really understand what happened because I just so badly just wanted to push it away. Mm-hmm. That was a mistake. That was this, that was that. And then I'm like, no, because you cried and he laughed at you. That is...
Well, and
like, what the hell?
At least he showed his colors. There's no real silver lining to being assaulted.
Yeah. No.
But, you know, showing someone who you are, it could have happened 30 years in. It could have happened 20 years in. And so, you know, you are recognizing, at least you get to recognize with a safe person. Yeah. Even if it's a obstacle. Yeah. It's something that is a part of you. It's part of your fabric.
I hope and pray that I'm where it stopped. I hope and pray that I'm like the last person that he ever did that to, you know, because I think that there were a lot of things that played into it. But even there I am. I'm trying to like excuse
always
it.
Excuse
I'm
it.
always
right.
excusing it. And at the end of the day, like it was not okay. And there were, like I said, a lot of things that happened in that particular relationship that have like half shaped me into who I am today and half is like the reason why I have so many
traumas.
Yeah.
And you know, the trauma part is so hard to sort of just break down and say like, oh, it's good this happened to me or it's bad this happened to me. Like I think things can just suck.
Yeah.
And I'm just happy that for anybody, I'm always happy it's not longer than it was.
Yeah.
And there's people that, you know, will have kids and get divorced and I'd say, well, you get to have the rest of your days free.
Yeah.
And so I, for that, I'm just happy that you were able to, you know, you were young when you got into it. You were young having to go through something like that. And then you were young getting out of it.
Yeah. And I think that's why there's a part of it that I'm like, yeah, thank God that like, you know, I had so much of my life to live. But I think there's also a part of me that's like, oh my God, I was just a little child. I was just a little girl.
Processing that is so young.
Yeah.
And like you said, when people don't talk about any kind of, you know, topic that could be, we have no idea what's going on behind closed doors when people don't talk about things. And so like opening up conversations, like support groups on social media are so much more present than they used to be.
Yeah.
And so, you know, assault is something that is so, sometimes it's a really clear cut.
Yeah.
And then sometimes it's still clear cut and you still don't realize it. And then sometimes it's murkier.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they're all valid.
Yeah.
But it's really hard especially when they're murky or you don't realize it until later.
Yeah.
And then you're like, what?
Yeah. It's a whirlwind for sure.
How long was it since, like, when you actually, like, got diagnosed or realized when that was assault, I have PTSD? Was it, like, 2 years, 5 years?
I just found out that I have PTSD, like, very, like so, within the last, like, 2 months from it. But I always knew I had, like, anxiety. I always knew that it was, like, something that I was dealing with for a long time, but I never used those words. And then, like, I was talking to a therapist, and they were like, "Yeah, that's
PTSD."
PTSD, and I was like, then I don't know why that made me feel so much better.
I was going to say, did it validate it and made it made you put some closure?
Yeah,
and you can at least compartmentalize, like, oh, those emotions equal this.
Like, the biggest word I've been called is crazy, and people, I'm sure people online are gonna laugh because I play the crazy girl all the time. I'm always crazy, but like
we're usually the most sane, by the way.
Yeah,
people that play crazy girls are actually the most logical.
Yeah, exactly.
Just gonna put that out there.
I think I'm very hyper and I get very anxious, and so it comes off like, especially because I, you know, of course, like look back on like interviews that I do, and I'm like always like, you know, and I'm like, it's because of this anxiety that builds up, and I'm like, let me entertain, cha-cha-cha-cha, like,
I'll fill the space.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. And so, but I was called crazy so much of like, especially my first relationship, and I'm like, or maybe that's just how somebody reacts when you know, you hurt them over and over and over again. Like,
or I think you're also pushing buttons that make them too vulnerable or too uncomfortable, and they feel anxious themselves, and they're not used to feeling anxious.
Yeah,
then they'll push it off onto you.
Yeah. And I'm like, no, I'm just dealing with trauma that you've given me.
But it's good to like get that label for yourself, because now you could go, I know what to work towards.
It's the same thing with anxiety and depression. Once I got diagnosed, I was able to be like, I feel like I was able to kind of like my asthma. I'm like, okay, I have this thing. Sometimes it's hard for me to breathe. Sometimes it's not. I can use my inhaler. I can go into the shower and open up my lungs in the humidity. There's things that I can do. So when I'm having a panic attack, instead of looking at it being like, what's wrong with me? I'm crazy. It's like, okay, no, this is something that you have. This is something you know the tools to use to be able to get out of this. Yeah. And sometimes it's going to worsen and sometimes it's going to get better and you're going to, ebb and flows. But seeing it as kind of like a diagnosis of anything else that I have going on, like it helps me not feel like I'm losing my mind.
I think like what you said, where like a lot of people who are victims of assault don't realize that's PTSD.
Yeah.
And then they don't go for help because they're going, well, it's a police problem. It's my problem, not a mental health problem. It's like, it is.
Yeah.
And it'll help you not dissociate, but make sure that's always in the back of your mind and not at the front of your mind.
Yeah.
I think validating it is taking it one step further. If someone else validates you, then you can own it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it just ownership, especially when people have gone through a lot of bad relationships where they're either mean or they're like, I'm an asshole. This is who I am. Or I use, derogatory terms.
Yeah.
And it's like several of these experiences will say, you're saying, I didn't love myself.
Yeah.
You can own certain things and this you can own. And therefore, then Rolodex it. It's not been processed, but at least it's been labeled.
Yeah.
And it helps you with your own ownership.
Yeah.
And also, obviously, you have learned and found a safe space to then explore what's been in your head this whole time and have that support system go, yeah, you're not alone, dude.
Yeah.
Like, that sucks.
Yeah.
Like, the fact that you have your husband there who's with you in these conversations and your family and his family.
Yeah, yeah.
That's the toughest thing.
I literally
when
talked
you're
about
by
it with
yourself.
because I was telling his parents about how I was going to be doing this, and I was like, I'm having anxiety just because I was like, I'm going to be sharing parts that I was like, I don't even know if you guys know, and so I told them about it, and and it was just like,
was that a healing experience to tell your in-laws about that?
I mean, I feel like every time I talk to them, I feel like I'm healing somewhere because I just am really close with them. I really love them so much, and I think that it's gotten to a point where, like I said, I felt like emotional today, but usually I'm able to talk about it in more of like a separation. Mm-hmm. And so when I talked about it with them yesterday, it was kind of like, it was almost factual. Like, this is what happened. Okay. This is when this is why I feel like it's important to talk about it. And,
Absolutely.
And then having my mother-in-law just be like, so she's so loving and so kind and caring and just, the biggest thing is people when they listen, I think, and she was just taking it in and, saying, how she didn't know that and, how sorry she was. And I was like, it is what it is.
Also, look at 19-year-old, dating assholes to today.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, literally every breakup has led you to this partner that you're like, I deserve someone who, loves me for me, who isn't a dick and isn't abusive and doesn't say, oh, just FYI, I'm an asshole, but you're going to love me still. Right? Like, to get to that point now, you're going, oh, it does work.
Yeah.
Right? It is breakups work.
Yeah.
Like, there's a purpose why you
absolutely
disappear with people and friends, whatever, jobs. It's all for a reason. You're like, oh, yeah. Yellow Jackets, great. Husband, great.
I'll take it. Yeah.
Podcast with Holland.
Yeah.
Great.
Exactly. It all led me to here.
Pinnacle is the point. But I think you're a great example for people out there that are going through that murky, really weird of I am validating this person when I shouldn't be, and I'm excusing them, and I love them, and I idealize them, but then in the moment, I always think it's important to say, if you say I love you to someone, you have to prove that to them every day. Yeah. It's an ongoing verb. It's like an action verb, and they might have loved you 6 months ago when they treated you a certain way, or 3 years later they're treating you another way, even post breakup. Yeah. It's all current. Yeah. It's it's a never changing thing. Yeah. And we like to lean on the past tense of no, we love each other. Mm-hmm. And it's no, but what was today like? Yeah. Is that love?
Yeah. Choosing that you have to choose each other. Mm-hmm. Yeah, like you said, choose each other every day.
And live in that feeling. And if that does not feel good, and then the next day doesn't feel good, and the next day doesn't feel good, it's unfortunately the past doesn't matter.
Yeah.
was like, listen to your gut.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
it.
And I've got a leaky gut, man. I really do.
It talks a lot.
And so no, unfortunately, I actually was diagnosed with leaky gut. It's fucking
What?
grody.
It's a thing.
Yeah, I know. What a gross term. They're like, you have leaky
gut.
gut. I remember meeting Christian. I was like, guess what's leaking in me? My gut.
My
He was like,
intestines.
wow.
Kind of a Band-Aid.
Cool. Yeah, literally. Okay, gross.
Oh my
Thanks,
God.
doctors. I love medicine.
The things that go on with us.
Yeah.
I love the terms. I love the terms that are now associated with them. They're so fun.
Yeah.
I know. Well, I think that, I think, thank you for being so honest
Yeah.
because I think the assaults it's so tricky.
Yeah.
It's so tricky. And so the more people that can, if they're really struggling or there's something gnawing at them or they have a self-worth problem, they can recognize that and go, why?
Yeah.
And then if they could maybe label something and be able to categorize and go, oh, that actually leads to something, then that helps them too.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Well, thank
it's
you
huge.
for creating a space for me to talk about it.
Yeah, there's a few breakup podcasts out there, but there's not one where, especially people in the public eye, because social media, it's like they just disappear from reality, and that we're all guilty of it. And so, or we're guilty of hiding completely, that's me. I've never posted boyfriends on social media.
Really?
Never consciously, but I'm like, well, what's that about, Holland? Something's going on because you've never done it in 10 years, 15 years. So, so whether you're the person that never posts or the person that posts and then they disappear, it's like there's some sort of stigma with something ending.
Yeah.
And that's why we've created this room of like, it doesn't have to be a stigma, and look how much people can learn from other people's stories.
Yeah.
So like people in the public eye, I feel like it's like, we're dating, or we're not dating, or we're never dating. Yeah. And so there's like I'm the we're never dating. Not that I would hide someone. Yeah. But it's something about like, I think there might be a like, I don't know what it is. I don't know what. That's my therapist, and I don't know what it is. But but I mean, you had a secrecy thing.
Yeah.
A secret relationship
to the point where like I was 16 and I was...
So you were even younger than 19.
Yeah. Because that was the end. But the beginning, I was 16 and I met this guy and I was just really excited because I was always like the best friend to the hot girl, So guys would get close to me to then like get to her. But she's super hot. I mean, she's great. But it was... I never got to feel that. And I finally had this guy who was like interested in me. And I was so excited. And another road trip to Arizona. What? Whoa, are we having deja vu right now?
Never go back to Arizona.
No, I'm saying this like right now. But we were going to Arizona. And same thing. I was going to my aunt and uncle's and he was going somewhere else. And his mom was driving. Like, we were little kids. Yeah. He was 15. He was a baby.
Oh, okay.
And I was like, we've been seeing each other for a couple of weeks at this point. So I was like, am I your girlfriend? And
wait, his mom was in the car when you asked this?
Yeah, but we were like sitting in the back, like watching movies, like for the whole time. And she was like listening to like, I don't know, her thing, music and stuff. Yeah. And we're driving and I was like, am I your girlfriend? And he like kind of, and I was like, oh. And he was like, you can be, but I have some rules. And so I'm like, okay. So he gets his laptop out and he types up rules and
no, he does not.
A contract, like a little kind of contract thing that I then had to like type my name and like sign.
He was like an NDA?
Basically, of like...
Do 15-year-olds, are they legally even allowed to
No, none of this is legal binding.
But the fact
it was
that he
very
had the
like...
audacity to do that, I want to talk to this boy.
This was 3 years of... I was not allowed to hold his hand in public. I was not.
He stuck to these rules.
Oh, like
that he wrote
like
on his
the
laptop.
way that I was reminded that he was like a teen heartthrob and like that I was like not in the picture basically. And so for 3 years it was like, or like three, on and off, like 2.5, 3 years. It was this like It hurts after a while, and you don't like think it's gonna like affect you the way it does. But then when he was allowed to do a lot of things I wasn't. So like I use the word allowed because it was a very controlling relationship. Mm-hmm. So he was allowed to flirt with other girls. He was allowed to live basically looking single. No. This was after I had signed.
Played out.
Yes, this was it being played out of like that like nobody was allowed to know that we were together. Nobody was allowed to know that like he had a girlfriend or was even dating. And he was allowed to flirt with other people in like his mind. And I wasn't even allowed to have friends, guys, girls, anything, because if I was hanging out with somebody other than him and having a good time, somehow, I don't know if he was threatened by it or what, but it was like everything that I did was wrong and bad. And so, and I was just like, okay. And then he broke up with me after like a year of us being together. And we were apart for like 2 months. And of course I was like, the world's over.
Yeah.
And then we got back together. And that's when the world actually like
Really
ended for
ended.
me. Like
Totally.
because getting back together meant he now has all the power of, I can leave you at any point. You are at my disposal. And I was treated that way for so long. And I, at that point, like really lost everybody because all of my friends.
The dedication to him took all the time.
Well, I also just didn't want to, like, you know, when we broke up, I like found all my girlfriends again and they were all so supportive of me. And they were like, yeah, he used to flirt with me, Sam. Like he made me uncomfortable and like all this stuff. And then we got back together and it was like.
You had to choose basically your friends or him again.
Yeah. And they also just didn't want to have a friendship with me anymore at that point. And I understand like that. It hurt, obviously, you know, but I understood it. And yeah, and so.
It's almost like you were going back to the cave and they didn't want you to, and it was almost too painful for them to watch.
They're like, well, I don't want to be there. I don't want to see that. I don't want to be, he flirts with me in front of, you know, like that kind of stuff. And
so they called you out to your face.
Pretty much.
What the hell's happening?
Yeah. And like
Which looking back, you're probably
and
like,
I always,
good friends.
Well, yeah.
Well, but as an adult, I think like teenage friends, like adult friends would still be like, we're there. I'm gonna.
Yeah,
you
or
can
when
always
it's
call
over,
me.
call me. You know, and there wasn't that.
You
There
give me a
wasn't
call.
like,
I'm always gonna pick up my phone.
Yeah, and there wasn't that. But like I said, I
a bit more isolating
understand.
as a teenager.
It was confusing for everybody, you know, and I always just excused everything and he's a teen heartthrob. I'm like, what is this, Justin Bieber? Like, I'm like, he's a teen heartthrob.
I don't even think Bieber has
Justin
an NDA
Bieber?
like
It
that.
was not Justin Bieber.
I don't think
He
even.
would have
Yes.
been, 13?
Yeah.
But I mean,
No,
this is
I'm like-
the last thing this boy should be doing is in a relationship with a woman or a girl or whatever. You know, it's like there was so much like healing he had to do with his own self-identity and how his parents raised him.
And to be fair, I will play.
you know.
I will play his advocate in the sense that clearly, yes, there were things with the parents, and there was a company that he was working for because he's an actor that encouraged being single, being hot, being, you know what I mean. So there is that aspect.
But he took it. He
took it to the other level,
But also,
Right.
screw that. Like, don't make an excuse for him.
Yeah.
Like,
No,
obviously
I'm
he's
yeah.
wrong.
Yeah,
I think that-
and
But I feel
it's
like people do that going, well, he had reasons going,
yeah.
no, he didn't.
No, it's
No,
like when people win
yeah.
the lottery, when people's like spend all their money and they're miserable and like no, they were miserable to begin with.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
They won the lottery and that's exacerbated.
Yeah.
He had certain. He had a moral compass to begin with.
Yeah.
And when that got exacerbated, when he won the heartthrob lottery, I think it was like narcissism
I like
at its
hate
best.
the words heartthrob so much. Like I'm like
Well, for
the
good
word
reason,
throb
too.
is just
It's like
grody to me. I'm like,
triggering now.
true.
You're like,
I
oh.
know.
I think like Tiger Beat
Yeah,
is
yeah.
like we cannot. This is like
Literally,
it cannot be
literally.
brought up.
And so
Oh
I'm
my
like,
God.
no, literally Tiger Beat. Yeah, no,
Oh
that.
God.
I think like, and it's, and we were talking about words, and I keep thinking about words because words can, it's the whole like, words can never hurt me. No, they fucking can.
You need like a
They
J14
hurt.
and Tiger Beat burn session.
Please and thank you. Get all the posters.
Get all the posters.
But I'm like, there's.
That was a really effed up magazine, by the way. Like
Yeah.
that was the worst
all of
magazine you
them.
could
I
ever
had
make in
them all.
America.
Are you kidding? I
me
would like
too.
see
Oh,
who
I did
like
too.
who I was like gonna end up with, and like
Taylor
carded all
Thompson.
over.
I'm a weird,
that's
if I
right.
ran I would run a really weird country. Like I wouldn't like allow those things because I think the like worship aspect of it is so off.
Yeah.
Like thinking, I'm thinking
fandom.
this out. Like that was so.
Yeah, we had posters of just like little boys.
But like how young like everybody was to be like, and it goes back to Beatles days. Like this
Yeah.
is nothing new. But like it was just that's wild how like unhealthy that was.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
all did. Oh, I had Jonathan Taylor Thomas was up on my wall.
That was the thing.
Oh God. Yeah.
Wait,
so
did
funny.
your parents know any of this?
They knew
Not to like
certain,
point fingers at your
yeah.
parents.
No,
but
no,
but they knew
no.
Whilst you were
certain.
a
They knew
kid.
certain aspects of it because they were around all the time.
Yeah.
If
you know?
Jason and his future child, he'd be like, Oh, you'd be on it like,
If
what?
I heard about my daughter signing a contract,
Yeah, no,
I
they
will
didn't.
go after
I just
his
told my mom
parents
about
going,
this, and she was like, "What?
Wait, when
Yeah.
did
What do
when your mom found out?
Yeah, I just told her like 2 days ago because
No, wait, your
was
mom
like,
never
she
knew.
just found it.
Yeah, she didn't know about that, and so I know.
Was she like,
I
you
didn't
are-
realize I'd kept it, but I think I kept so much from her.
I
that,
totally kept
teenage.
so much
She
from
was
my
like
parents.
like I told her everything and also nothing at the same time because I wanted him to be the good guy too, so badly, and like. You know,
When
until
you're
towards
so
the end it started
excited.
slipping, and
You wanted
everything.
him. You wanted- yeah.
But towards the end, it was like there was no way to keep things a secret because it was like, I mean,
Outrageous.
yeah, I mean, he'd come over and I'd be just bawling my eyes out, and he'd, you know, be laughing. He loved to laugh at me and call me pathetic when I'd cry, and like once again words, but like that word pathetic is like so like
Jarring.
like onto me because it's like it was just this. You know, I'd be like, they have this 18 and up club, and like it'd be so fun for us to go dancing. And he's like, the only reason people go to clubs is to hook up with people. I think it's disgusting that you even want to do that. And I'm like,
Just shamed you on everything.
well, and then I was like, well, then why'd you go to clubs in Paris? I cannot believe you're talking about that. You know, it was just so like I would like catch him in these things that, and then it was just,
classic
oh my
manipulation.
God. Like I wish I knew the
sick.
words gaslighting then,
Yeah.
but I didn't. And I wish I
Social
would have known, but the
media,
amount of time
we
like.
know more now.
I know. And I'm like, oh my God, there were so many things that happened that I'm like, that is so fucked up and so not okay. And like I just wish I could go hug her, that like young woman, and tell her like, A, you're so gonna be okay.
You're so
gonna be okay. And B, like,
It's hard to see you have to go through it though. When you
Yeah.
think of that girl.
like I'm like, you're awesome and you're so fun. You're such a fun person. And I think that was the thing that was the hardest. My mom actually did tell me, and I love my mom, and you know, this is no hate towards my mother, but she told me, she's like, you know, your light is gone.
Right.
People.
I feel like people like your closest friends, family, whatever, will know your relationship's not good before you'll
No, it's not good.
realize it or no, because they're going, something's off.
Well, even if
so
the person
depressed.
realizes
Something's
it,
off.
they're not going to want to admit
Well,
it.
yeah,
They're so
exactly.
excited
Even more
and mixed
so.
up
And I was
in
depressed and I was suicidal and I was like, after the breakup, I mean, that's when I started drinking a lot. And that's when like my
Right.
addiction for that just like, went in full swing. And I was
That's
just
also
like,
what, like 1920.
Yeah.
So
Right?
young.
So
I was
that's even
I was a
you know,
baby, but
unfortunate, right?
it was a really hard
You had a
time.
tough first lesson, man.
Yes, I know. And that was my introduction to
Advanced.
love. And I'm like, I feel like I'm very lucky in the sense that I didn't let it continue. Like I let it end with me in a lot of ways. But I do think that there's things that I learned in the sense of like, I'm like, I did bring some toxic behaviors into other relationships because I thought love was supposed to look like this big, explosive, like
intense.
you're just like angry and like, you know,
Peaks
like,
and
and then when you're
valleys.
happy, you're so happy and all this stuff. And then like I met Speedy, my like the good ex, and he was just kind of like, you don't need to like yell. And I was
need
like,
to, like, yell.
Yeah, and he's just like so like he's such a good person. And I was like, really? Like we're not supposed to be like all the
all you have
time, you know?
learned.
And like,
Yeah.
and he was like, no.
I think I've told you, like, my partner has been like, you're the most non-emotional person I've ever dated. She's like, but she's used to like men who are like, I'm fucking crazy. And you're like, and she's
Yeah.
like, you just go, okay.
Yeah.
I'm like, right. Because like, we'll just talk about it.
Or my husband will be
Why
like,
is it
that hurt my
nuts, right? Like,
feelings. And I'm like,
yeah.
and that, oh my God, when he says like, that hurt my, I'm like, oh, Christian. Like, oh, that's the last thing I want to do ever is hurt my husband's feelings. I love him so much. But like, I've never had somebody tell that to me. Instead, it's like, you're this and you're that, and this name calling and you're, you know,
Reflect,
and I was
reflect.
When
like,
someone says you've like hurt me or like, you know, please don't do this or you're stressing me out, when someone takes that information and goes, you're making me out to be the bad guy. It's like, no, that person's reaching out for help and being like, we have a moment to repair this. And this, please don't do this because it makes me feel this way. And they take it and make it about themselves.
yes,
Right.
Instead
yes.
of when someone's begging for forgiveness.
Well, now
you know?
I'm the bad guy. I'm like, okay,
like, oh,
Mother Gotham,
yeah,
Jesus.
yeah.
So
Okay.
how did you then decide to date again?
Oh my God.
How long was that
I
process? Or
will
what
give
did you,
myself the
like,
biggest pat on the back of the
so
sense
it sounds like you did like 10 years of torture
Just
in
a
3
really
years.
no,
tough,
I
tough
did. I
situation.
did, but
yeah,
then
like,
I
how'd
like
you jump?
I was so, like I said, I've always just had this, I'm gonna I'm gonna be married. I'm gonna find love. I'm gonna, you know.
You had a guiding light that just knew it.
That I knew.
You fought too hard for each relationship because you believed in this vision so wholeheartedly.
And I think once I finally like started healing from that relationship, I was able to go like, if I can love that much, which I say love, I think in a lot of ways I was obsessed with him. I was obsessed with the idea of losing him, and he was obsessed with the idea of controlling me.
Right.
But I'll use the word love for now. If I can love somebody that much who treated me that bad, imagine how much I can love
That's real.
somebody who's going to treat me well, you know?
But I also think separating the idea of that guiding light vision from whoever's in front of me has to be my person then. And the second you could delink those things, you could really actually believe in your vision.
Yeah.
Because your vision wasn't going to ever come with the wrong person.
Yeah.
And you couldn't delink them because you're like, this is my vision, so this has to be the right person because I am the ultimate optimist. This has to work out.
I literally, like, I don't know if this is even going to, like, show up, so I'm just going to do this for shits and giggles. But I'm going to show you just the quickest part from my wedding of one of my things in my vows because it does have something to do with
contracts, no rules and regulations.
No, Christian has not given me any contracts.
16-year-old having to sign a contract is a new one.
It also sounds like
that's
you
a
have
new one I've heard on the show and in my life.
self-confidence, right? Like,
if
you don't have that, it's tough to like get out of those situations or realize
well, and
I believe better.
That's one thing I told my ex, the one of 3 years. I was like, you made me believe that I was as pathetic as you put me out to be.
Oh yeah,
and
they make you believe it.
Yeah, and like we said, finally to be able to say like those are lies and that I'm not going to believe those anymore. I'm like, look, I can be a lot of things. And I have been a lot of things. And I'm a messy person. And I wish and I hope to constantly be better and a better version of myself. But I am in for the most part a good person.
Right.
And I'm always striving to be a better one. You know?
Benevolence is at the bottom of it all.
Yeah.
I think Dr. Romani said that, right? It's
we
like,
had a narcissist specialist on the show.
She does like narcissist. She goes, they're going to make you feel
great.
like how they feel
incredible.
inside.
She has a book
Definitely
that just came out called
narcissist.
It's Not You. And it's I was a huge fan of hers before she came on the show. I was so nervous. I was like, oh my God, Dr. Romani's coming on.
You're ready.
I was so excited. I love that. Just because her content is so steadfast in layman's terms and describes different types of narcissists. There's the do-gooder narcissists that can come home and are mean at home. There's the covert narcissists that seem really shy and the world has wronged them. And those are really tricky because they're covert. And then there's, your grandstanding narcissist. Like she goes through all these different kinds of narcissists.
She's fascinating.
And
because it all makes sense. And you look back, you're going,
oh,
where's
my
that
Lord.
person's a narcissist? And then they're trying to make you feel as bad as they feel on the inside.
Yeah.
And you're going, I'm not you though.
I literally
right?
met...
a narcissist wants them to be like you.
I met that particular ex, I met his girlfriend like years later after me.
Oh, no.
And her and I got like tea, literally.
You're like now we're best friends.
Yeah. No, I love her so much. And it was so interesting that I was like, we are so similar in the sense that we're both such like bubbly, happy people. And I'm like, I really feel like I was almost like we were like two like little like light fairies and he went and for a long time like our wings stopped working.
They got clipped.
And it took a while to grow them back. But like it just felt like he was kind of always going, here's some light. Okay, I'm going to close it again. Here's some light. I'm going to close it again. You know what I mean?
And people that are bubbly and really optimistic and really loving and really just stubborn, like will not say goodbye, will not admit defeat because it can't be defeat. There's got to be, we could. You love me, I love you. Love, like we're gonna work out,
right.
And those are the most vulnerable types of people to be able to come hither, close the cave door.
Yeah.
Sweet Christian, I have spent
Sweet Christian. My parents. Oh. Hold on, it comes up. It's cute.
What a video.
It's a great video.
It's great.
They did a great job.
My dear sweet Christian, I have spent my entire life waiting for this day. In fact, I have waited 10,279 days for this moment right here. And all I have to say is thank God I waited. Thank God it's you.
Literally, thank God.
Oh.
Thank God it's him. I'm like,
So was that day from breaking up with that 3-year ex? When did that day start? Or is that your life?
What? Oh, that's how old I am.
10,000.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
10,000 days.
That's
How
what
old do you
that
think
was
I am?
over my head.
Yeah. That was from
Numbers
like the
are
day
fun
that I
for
was born
everyone.
to that moment, to that day, was all the days that like I've waited for that person that I was going to like do it. I was going to say I do. I was going to like vow my life to that person that like I am going to fight for every single day, you know?
He was like, I love you.
Yeah. No, honestly,
I'm
his
sure
vows,
he had a whole thing.
oh, his vows, like my vows were nothing compared to the way, like literally everybody told me, they were like, yours were good. Christians were amazing. Christians like actually like made people feel something. I'm like, oh, okay, wow.
Which is also good because you won.
Yeah.
You got the better
got
guy.
that.
You're
I
like,
got it.
got it. I'm okay with that.
You know what? I got the man. I don't know
Yeah.
if you've heard the song. I got like You Got the Boy. It's a great song. It's like this country song, but it's about like this girl who's talking about like how you know, you like this. She's talking about her ex, and she's like, I got the boy, but she got the man. And she's like, I got like the young you, like the crazy like hothead, and like this woman got the like man version of you, and not knowing which one she would have rather had. I don't know. It's interesting. It's fun.
I will have
It's
to
a
look
good
this song up.
Yeah, it's a good one.
I'm so glad that, you know, that was a tough, you were going to be okay. Like you were always going to be okay.
Yeah. I kind of always, I always knew there was light, but like, damn, it was hard.
It was a rough road.
It was a rough road.
That's really, really tough.
Yeah.
Like, just word to the wise, guys. No contracts. No contracts.
No contracts.
At any age, let alone a teenager.
Yeah. And if somebody's not helping you grow for the best, then they're trying to change you for what they want.
So what would you say your words of wisdom would be?
Oh my God, wait, okay, I have it. Hold on.
You do? Oh, you
I have it. I have it.
Came prepared.
That's me, baby.
Oh, that's great.
Self-esteem emerges when you ignore unwanted opinions.
Self-esteem emerges when you ignore unwanted opinions.
Some of those opinions are just not for you. Mm-hmm. Push those aside. Let yourself flourish.
It's not for that.
That was on my co-star. That was literally on my co-star today, which is like an astrology thing. But I was like, oh my God, I'm going to use that.
Perfect
How
one.
timely.
That was
That was
crazy.
it. That was
Crazy
meant
though,
to
right?
be.
Yeah, like actually crazy.
Yeah. Well, thank you for coming. Oh,
Thank you.
So many stories that people are going to take away.
Oh
It's
my
a
God,
big
I
one.
did it.
It's a big one. Thank you.
course.
Those are wild
Do not
ones
try
in
to find
there.
these people, though.
Do not try to find these
Do not try to
people.
find these people. Let them, you know.
Let them spiral into their own situation, their own Death Star,
Yes.
because that's a tough one. That's really tough.
Yeah.
We will see you next time for another episode of UnCoupling. Bye. UnCoupling podcast is produced by Stampede Ventures, Jason R. Ellis, and Holland Roden.